I'm always curious why people clap before I talk. So reserve your applause for later because you may not want to clap for me by the time I'm finished. Oh, that was really interesting. I'm going to be saying some relatively unpopular things for teenagers. So it's going to be a bit of a difficult talk at times, but my encouragement is that you participate. I'm here as much to learn from you as what I think I can teach you, because I don't pretend to be a teenager. I certainly don't pretend to be a teenage girl. I've raised two teenage girls. I've got an 18 and a 23-year-old at home. And the older they get, the more I realize I don't understand anything at all. So maybe you can assist me with that. So a lot of it is going to be about interacting, because I don't like just talking to young people, because I assume that you're the experts on your own lives and that you have something important to say. So the title of the talk today is about the disconnected connected. So my belief, so please understand, this is a particularly slanted talk towards the dangers of the internet and all that comes with it. I know there are good parts to it, I know there's important parts to it, I know it helps learning, but this talk has a particular slant. So I'm also on social media, also all over the internet, etc. So I'm not saying it's all bad. I'm just really wanting to get you thinking about how being on the internet might affect your development and might in some ways challenge your safety. Okay. So why do you think I called my talk the disconnected connected? Yes, ma'am.
So, when you don't have your phone, you don't connect with other people.
That's pretty much right, because I believe that, when I studied psychology, and I'm sure a lot of the other people who have studied, we had a thing called Maslow's hierarchy, and the first hierarchy of needs at the bottom was what we call basic needs. In other words, you needed food, shelter, clothing in order to survive. I believe it's been placed with Wi-Fi, food, clothing, water, shelter. Okay. Because when when you have a power up, the biggest thing people are worried about is where am I going to get, how am I going to charge things? Am I going to run out of power? True? Pretty much. Okay. So one of the things I've noticed is that young people are very connected to the internet. So they've got thousands and thousands of friends. And all of you, I assume, have got some kind of social media account, yes? By show of hands, how many have got between, let's take anyone, pick one, Instagram, whatever. By show of hands, who's got Instagram? Almost all of you. Okay. Right, the hands down. How many of you have got between 0 and 100 friends? 100 and 200, 200 and 300, 300 and 400, 400 and 500, 500 and 600, 600 and 700, 700 and 800, 1,000 and over. Okay, that's what I thought. So, if I then challenged you to write down 100 of those names on an actual piece of paper, if you didn't have your phone with you, could you write down 100? Okay. Could you write down 1,000? So there's a line somewhere in between. So the reality is that what the internet has done is it's allowed us to connect with many, many different people over many diverse spaces, different cultures and religions and different ideas and so on. But what it has also potentially done is disconnect us from ourselves. So because I'm old, as you can see, and I've got young children, I'm going to do all the old person stuff. So this is how we as adults see the current media world. Does that ring any bells for you? Is it unfair? Is it true? I hear the back saying no, it's shouting loudly. The older teens at the back are no, we do very important things that we are recording. Okay, how many of you have a selfie stick? What do you record yourself doing generally? Partying, smiling, dressing up, showing eyes in another direction while partying this one. So, The point of it is, I mean, it sounds relatively odd, but the point of it is what you are doing is you're putting an enormous amount of material about yourself into the world, an enormous amount. And you must recognize that what you put out there, you can't get back. Okay, once it's out there, it's out there. And you do know what the teenage brain, you know the metaphor we use for the teenage brain. Again, I love this. This is why I said don't clap before I talk. Do you know the metaphor we use for the teenage brain? We say it's the equivalent of giving an unlicensed driver a Ferrari that doesn't have brakes. So, basically what it is that when you do something that you and that your parents and maybe us consider relatively stupid, and we ask you why you did it, what is your general response? I don't know, I wanted to. Okay? And when we say I don't know, did you actually not know why you did it? Did you just have like a brain moment and something came out and you think that, why did I do that? And the thing with the internet is you can do that very quickly. So we're going around and doing social things. This is part of what we see in terms of adolescent development. So it's an idea of a group of young people with their necks cast down, not connecting to the world and looking into the internet indefinitely. And what is scary for us as adults is we are behind in this technology. Okay, we're far behind compared to you. And the problem with us being so far behind is the fact that we actually don't know where we are sending you to. So that kind of black hole vortex, we don't actually know. The cell phones haven't been around for long enough. You Generation Zers, you haven't been around for long enough for us to understand what internet use is actually doing to your brains. Okay? Because essentially, basically, your body is like a machine. Whatever you put in is what you get out. And by putting in all of this messaging around social media, we're not quite sure what it's going to result in later. Do you recognize this? Shame. Do you recognize it is my question? Do you recognize going out with friends and socializing where you're maybe even messaging your friends sitting next to you rather than talking to them? Yes? No? Okay. So, as we go on, we're becoming increasingly worried, and I'll explain to you why we're worried. We're becoming increasingly worried that by allowing you to be connected to the world continuously, that we're disconnecting you from your humanity. And what it's doing is it's creating a group of quite isolated young people. There will be a point where my family slides, don't worry. That we're creating a group of young people who are quite isolated often. Okay, while having over 1,000 friends, socially quite isolated. And we worry that through this whole thing, this is what will happen to the evolution of man and woman. Now, why would we end up looking like the alien on the end? Your screens are getting smaller, so your eyes have to get bigger. The keypads get smaller, so your fingers have to get thinner. You have to absorb a lot more information, so your heads get bigger. And because you're not doing very much activity and you're always on the internet, you'll get thinner and pasty like in turn green. So it's almost like these little green men were prophetic of what will happen if we continue on our current trajectory. So what does all of this very interesting kind of funny stuff mean? Well, it means some quite serious things for your development. Do you believe the first highlighted point to be true? Do you learn from the media? Okay, by show of hands, who says yes, you learn from the media? Close to me. For those of you who don't learn from the media, where are your hands? Okay, now we're going to have them anymore. We're going to ask some questions. How do we know you learn from the media? We all know you learn from the media. How do we know that?
Because we repeat what we hear on the media.
And what you see. You repeat what you see, you repeat what you hear. And how do you decide how to dress? How do you decide which brands to buy and which sneakers are the current ones to be used? Do you decide via marketing? You do? No? Yes? Some of you do. Your parents know about it though, because when you go home you want a specific kind of thing. So when marketing has worked really well, is the selling of cell phones. How many of you have smartphones? The latest iPhone? The latest iPhone. Second latest Samsung Galaxy. So this is our Apple crown. Okay. That is a 12,000 rand machine. Okay. Who does it belong to? By show of hands, who says it belongs to your parents? Who says it belongs to you? Whatever it is. Okay, let's go to the interesting debate as we go on a little bit further. Okay, so we do know that people strive to kind of have stuff, and stuff is marketed, and Google's basic aim, and you need to understand this very carefully, is what? What does Google want to do? Yeah?
They want to organize information and make money.
Pretty much both of those things combined. Google wants to learn as much as it can about you and what it is that you do, where you are, what you search, how you search it, so that they can sell you stuff. So Google will keep a track of every single thing you've searched in your life ever. Okay, I saw some people cheat. Okay. Because they want to be able to target market you, and their job is to have everything in the world on the internet. That's what they want. Okay, so that's the big mission. Everything that's ever been in the world must be on the internet. And of course, everything in the world is not good, so it has some issues. And they want to, have you ever parked somewhere when you go into a mall and it says you are parked here? And it knows exactly where you are. Okay. So the machine knows where you are, it knows what you like, it knows where you're going. How many of you check in with your statuses with your location? Okay. We'll see as we go on. So, if the internet is sending us all of these messages that we are going to imitate, what does that mean for us in terms of development? Do you think that there are high levels of violence portrayed within the media? I'm talking now broadly, the media. Do you see lots of violence? Do you see messages around sex and sexuality? They're very sexualized. I mean, even the music videos, clothes advertising, etc. And all the messages around substances and substance use. Okay. So we're getting exposed to all of these things, and what we're seeing is that, and this is the part I want you to think a bit carefully about, is that the more people are exposed to all of these things, the less they care about it. It's almost like if you show someone something too many times, they become desensitized. Now, desensitization is an interesting thing because it has become much more about what people have than what they are. That makes a difference today. So it's about having stuff. Okay. So who are the current reality icons in your world? The Kardashians. Why are the Kardashians famous? Well, maybe they can talk better time so that I can hear something, because otherwise I think I put voices in my head which one was the ones that are actually there. Why are the Kardashians famous? Because of their dad or something.
What does their dad represent?
Spot on. So they had a rich father who represented O.J. Simpson, who allegedly murdered his wife and her alleged boyfriend. So that makes him famous. He then, as I said, to children who are famous, who are simply famous because they're famous. What do they offer the world? Looks. for certain body image, okay, certain fashion things, etc. And the reality is, why do young people want to imitate them then? Why is it important to follow them and imitate them?
Everyone wants to imitate them because they're very popular.
They're popular, and they're popular because what? They're pretty, they've got a certain body image, and they've got stuff, as opposed to what they actually do in the world. Okay. All right. So what happens then is that what really concerns us is that kind of just being worried about stuff means that you'll pretty much do anything to get stuff. Doesn't really matter what kind of person you are. And then the more you get exposed to things over the internet, the more you think it's normal, and the more the world changes. So, have you seen any of the YouTube clips around children beating other children or beating teachers? Have you ever seen any of those videos? Nobody. Really? Okay. So I'll give you an example of something that I dealt with. So it was a group of girls at a prestigious private girls' school, where three of them decided they didn't like a particular girl, and they chased this girl with a belt, the buckle end of a belt, and they beat her with the belt. Okay. And then, when they caught her and they put her down, they continued to beat her. But the problem, that was bad enough, and I'll get to that shortly. That was bad enough, but what was worse for me was that people were filming it. They weren't intervening, they were actually just recording it. And the minute you put that screen between yourself and a real person, it's like you've lost that person. It was like you're watching a TV screen, but there's a real person on the other side of it. And the challenge with that is we see it happening more and more, where there's this complete desensitization. There's actually another cartoon which I didn't put in, which is a guy, you know, when people fall off a cliff and they hang on by one hand on the tree stump, and there's someone videoing him down there, say hello, everybody. They're not trying to help him up. Because we're becoming more and more, as we become more disconnected from each other, we become more desensitized. And then what that does is it increases our ability to cause harm to one another. So by show of hands, who of you believe that you have in any way been bullied by another child? Okay. Who of you believe that you have bullied another child? Interesting. Okay, nice, we've got right on this lady in the room. Who of you believe that you are both? A person here, it's a couple that have been bullied in wrong ways, which is the most likely answer. Okay, so bullying for me has become a real problem because what's happening when we get into cyberspace is that bullying becomes a real issue. Because there's a couple of things around cyberspace that makes it easier for us to hurt other people. And the main one is the fact that there is no body language associated with messaging on the internet. Okay, so how many of you use emojis? Emoticons? So, put your hands down. How many of you use only one after a sentence? Some shocked. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 20, 40, 60. So now, why is it that emoticons and emojis, I think when emoji really coming out, which I thought was quite bizarre. What can emojis really possibly be about? Anyway. Why do we use emojis and emoticons in our texting?
To express what we're saying. Yeah.
Because the way you say something can be different depending on, there can be so many different ways someone can actually take it.
You're trying to make sure people understand you so that they don't misread what it is that you have said. Okay, does it always work? Yes, no. How often do you misread people's body language? A lot as well. Misread their facial expressions? Tone of voice? Okay. So here's a question. I'm not going to ask you what you did. I'm just going to ask if you did. So by show of hands, where you have posted something up on the internet that when you look back on it, you regret terribly? And that happens quite easily. And the thing about it as well is what's happening is because it is such an instant age, it's like, you see those little rats tapping a lever like this to get their food in that. That's what it looks like when people are tapping on their phones. It's like kind of like a rat in a maze. Okay? That was just my own sort of adult rant. But the truth is that if that person were in front of you, you are less likely to say that thing than you are on the internet. Fair comment? Some people say no, fair enough. We believe that the reason for that is if I'm here sitting and talking to you, looking at you, the likelihood of me being really mean to you is far less than if I've got you in some art group where I can just say something. Okay, so cyberbullying is a real problem. Is it a problem here? Show of hands who thinks yes. Significant amount. Right. So what kind of things do you consider cyberbullying? Okay, so why are you being? If you know you don't like it and it's not good, why do you do it? And you're going to have to shout. You're going to get the mic. Jealousy? Okay, so you feel hurt or put out of something, so you retaliate. Yeah? Okay. You're also going to have to shout.
People always feel the need to say something, even though they don't need to. You might be upset or having a bad day, and you just want to like your anger out to someone else, and then they come back later and say, "Why did you do that? Why did I do that?"
Also, if you've got like parents who are like, fighting, or you've got people who are shouting at you or beating you, stuff like that. You have like a troubled past that can make you really like mean.
So we've got all kinds of weird people running around on the internet as we have in the real world. So who are you looking at gated community? A gated community, like conflict. How many of you go to gated malls? In other words, you go to the boom, everything, so how many go to malls when you're going to school? How many of you have any form of parental security on your phones? 2%. Only about half of the people who have their hands up at 2%. Because you must remember, the one thing is that we as adults are here, as unpopular as what we are, we have a saying in parenting that I care enough about you to allow you to be angry with me. I'm not your friend. Woo! I'm not. Okay? Because if I'm your friend, who's your parent? Okay? I don't want 12 to 17-year-old female friends. I've been there when I was 12, 17. Not my job. Okay? So, the point of it is sometimes we have to make unpopular decisions, but the unpopular decisions, if we are reasonable about them, we can discuss them with you. Okay? Because the truth is that the internet is a very potentially dangerous place. Where do you get most of the dangerous pop-ups coming on the internet? The ones that, okay, so you've got push and pull technology. Sometimes you type in words and you ask for the stuff to come to you. Other times it pops up when you are not asking for it and you're asking for something else. When is the main time you get pop-ups of unwanted material?
When you're watching videos and the ads come up.
So it's when you're torrenting, it's when you are downloading pirated music, because you know what? Nothing on the internet is free. When they say free music, it means stolen pirated music to download. When it's torrenting DVDs, and why do you think they do that for free? So that they can put the pop-ups behind it and send all kinds of messaging to get access to viruses and all kinds of things. Okay, so the danger around it often is around what teenagers want to do. They want to share music, swap music, share videos, share content, and that's often when it comes up. How many of you have had an experience, but just by show of hands, also I want to ask what it is. How many of you have had an experience where something has come up that you did not want, and that really, and that upset you by its content? That's a lot. Alright, so that's a lot of you. Okay. So, what do you do when that happens? Exit the site and then another pop-up comes. Have you ever had the experience of every time you close one pop-up, four others pop up behind it? Well, so what does all of this mean? How many of you are interested in psychology, social work, psychiatry, such things? Okay, so this is a master's level lecture I'm going to do now. Are you ready? Okay, so the most important thing for your development is a thing that we call attachment. You've all heard about attachment? Attachment is how well your primary caregiver raised you. When you cried, did they care for you enough and pick you up enough? Did they hold you enough? Did they feed you enough? Did they hug you enough? Did they tell you they loved you enough, etc., etc.? That's how well you are connected to your primary caregiver. However, when you become about your age, the ones in the back are maybe through it already, or stood in the throes of it, but certainly the front crowd, yeah. Do you feel like you wake up and suddenly your parents are like strangers? They feel the same way. It's like they woke up with a stranger in their house. It's like, who is this person? And you want them to drop you 6 blocks from anything, and it's giving them money, drop you far away. You parents talk and you need to. Huh? Very true. Now, that is a normal part of adolescence. We need to separate from our parents to become adults. And what happens in adolescence is there's this separation. And who becomes more important than your parents? Your friends. Now remember, those people who are looking to for guidance are the same people with the same porridge type Ferrari-like brain as you have. So who is there to put on the brakes? No one. And that's where parents and teenagers start butting heads. And sometimes we just survive our teenagers as do our parents. Okay? But the important thing is that we need the strongest protective feature for you against any form of harm is a good relationship with your parent. And if not your parent, a primary caregiver, a grandparent, or whatever. But an adult that you can actually look to guide you in the world. So there is a thing that we call prosody. So prosody is body language. And body language, sometimes teenagers struggle to read, as you said. Sometimes you misread people's body language. And on the internet, there is no body language, so I think you are learning less to read body language than what you ever have. It's even harder for you to understand body language because you are in the screen so much. And then what we believe it's doing something to is your ideas of intimacy. The concept of a friend has changed dramatically, as the concept of a boyfriend has changed dramatically. There's boyfriends online. They'll obviously say no in this context. Anyways. And have you actually ever met them? I don't want to ask how, that's just more extreme. And then finally what we believe it to be doing is that it's actually changing the way your brain is wired. So essentially your brain is a set of chemicals and electricity, and basically what you put into your brain is what you get out. And we look at brain development like erosion. So if you put one thing down a path all the time, like for example Grand Theft Auto, we believe, you should know what that is because it's age restricted, you see. I'll get to that shortly. Okay, because the gaming consoles are another whole drama, as are the dishes and the Netflix and the streaming and the whatever. Okay. But the point I'm making is we know that you are growing up in the digital age as Generation Z. Okay? The screen ages, you are proper screen ages. Okay? Everything involves a screen somewhere along the line. Even teaching involves a screen. We are not sure that what it's doing to your development. Okay? And we're going to find out in a couple of years what all of this massive exposure to the internet is done. So what worries us is the following. How many images of yourself do you think you have put on the internet in your life? Between 1 and 2,000? 2 and 3,000? 10,000? Some are 10,000. And what pictures generally do you put up of yourself on the internet? What's the general? Okay, someone goes ahead and talk loud because I can't hear you. We'll say, oh, and blood, and ball. Anyway, what kind of images do you put up?
Would it be most like selfies?
Selfies. Now, do any of you know what the myth of Narcissus is? Have you ever heard of narcissism? No. Narcissus was a Greek god that was condemned to looking into his shadow in a pool for the rest of his existence. Okay? And that was his punishment. Now, a narcissist is a person unable to see another person. So in other words, they don't really care about another person as long as they're okay. So it's a selfish person, a person who uses other people to get what they need. And these people are constantly only looking at themselves. In fact, I was with a woman, I'm not talking about a child, in her 20s. She never turned her phone off selfie mode for the entire time we were at the conference. Everything was taken by her selfie. So everybody had to be in her world in order for the phone to happen instead of her entering other people's worlds. So the difficulty with it is you also often take photos of yourself very dressed up, correct? You don't take ugly photos of yourself and post them, or do you? Generally not. Yeah, dressed up, etc. How many of you lie about your age at all? Okay. So, you have friends, so as we know, the majority, certainly the background, the majority have in excess of 1,000 friends. How many followers do you have? Do people follow you, or do you just friend everybody? Do you know who your followers are? Personally. If we had to print out your internet search history and happily give it to your parents as if it was a typewriter, that everything you ever typed into the internet in your life ever came out like a typewriter, which we happy we had put it over to your parents. I sense the answers in the sound of no. Yes, it's a no. Okay, so why would you not hand over your search history to your parents? I'm going to get over to privacy, which I'm going to disagree with. But anyway, what is the reason you would not give your parents your search engine history?
They think that you search that people find out.
So you are hiding things from your parents inside the machine. Yes? Okay? And they give you access to this to run around with it, and then when they want to check your phone and see what's on it, your general answer is? And why would you say that? Because the truth is, you are children, and your parents have a responsibility to protect you. And that phone, if my daughter, if I believe, in fact, if any of your parents believed you had drugs in your room or your house, would they search your room? Yes! Sure they would. Okay. Because they want to protect you, keep you safe, make sure you're okay, etc. What is different with the internet? Why is it different? It's equally dangerous, in fact, it's something more dangerous. Why is it different that they don't want to search it? Because of your privacy. If you want a diary, get one that's got one of those locks, so like in the old days where you can sort your private thoughts out in your diary. Okay. Your parents are entitled, if they believe you in danger, to actually take your phone and look at it. Okay. As unpopular as what that may sound. But you may have the right to privacy, but we have a responsibility to protect you. We shouldn't go right into it all the time in your privacy, but at the same time, if we have some kind of sense, like you guys in the front here have got a relationship with someone online and that person is 35, we will intervene, okay, because it's inappropriate. Well, it's abusive and illegal, of course it's inappropriate. Okay. So, how many of you have Snapchat? Okay. Instagram? YouTube? Do you have a channel on you? Okay. Facebook account? Okay, so you're on multiple platforms. How much time does it take to respond on your platforms, on average in a day? An hour? Is it a lot of time? Okay. Now, Snapchat is an interesting one. Why do you think someone invented Snapchat? And please do not tell me it's because of the add-ons that you can have that make your face go flat and squishy and you can talk and it really sort of. That's not the reason they invented Snapchat. They put that on Snapchat and you will download it. Yes, and then what? And then why was Snapchat invented? What does Snapchat do? What's its main function? Documents and delete. So Snapchat was something where you send a message, it drops off, it's a Snapchat, flashes up and it disappears. So those people are trying to hide stuff. Okay, and then they put all these filters on the front. So why would people want to send a message and then hide it immediately? Because they're doing bad stuff. Okay, so you've got to be careful about what they are putting up there. And then your digital footprint. Do you know where your digital footprint is? Do you know where your face is being posted, reposted, tweeted, Instagrammed? Do you know where you are in the world? Well, I'll leave that with you to think about. It's not such an easy question. And then the difficult thing, the side effect that I, but side effect I spelled it wrong. And you can answer this if you want to, but how many of you have anonymous accounts that your parents and teachers and peers don't know about, where you are doing things by a completely different identity that you have completely made up? So the problem with it is that it's a really, really big slippery slope. And sometimes you can get yourself into things on the internet that are actually really quite difficult to get yourself out of. And I'll give you an example of two of them shortly. So, one of the things that the researchers believe is happening is that the internet is replacing traditional sex education. How many of you speak to your parents about sexual development? No, yet. How many of you talk to teachers? Okay. Peers? So your friends? Okay, listen up. How many of you search for it on the internet? Information about sex, okay. So the point about it is, again, like with the violence and the sexual messaging and the bullying and the slippery slope and all of that kind of thing, is that we are quite worried about what this particular thing is doing to children's development. Okay, the violence I've already discussed. Okay, the addiction I'll discuss when we finish. But we really are worried in terms of sex and sexuality. So I read a case when I was down in Cape Town last week I read about a case on Friday where the way that they got the children, the adults got the children involved in sexual things with them was generally via some kind of social media platform. Okay, so how do they do this? So obviously, you know what pornography is. Okay, there's sexual images on the internet. There's chat rooms, there's cybersex, sexting, grooming, grooming. You all know what soft puppets and catfishing is. And then there's manufacturing and distribution and so on. So there is a massive, massive amount of stuff on the internet around sexual things. Okay, and teenagers want information. They are developing, and the schools are trying to educate, and the parents are trying to educate. But then you've got people out there who are trying to take advantage of young people who are still innocent. Okay, because the young people don't know. So I mean, I dealt with a 13-year-old girl from a very prestigious private school as well, who her and her friend had decided they were going on some video site. It wasn't Skype, it was something related. But it was more related to meeting people, so it was more sort of chat room based. And she got involved in something that was actually very sexual with somebody who lived somewhere in North Africa. He was a 35-year-old man, she was 13, her and her friend. And I asked her, if that person had come to you in the real world and said, I want to be your friend, what would you have done? Right, because we all told you, if these adults, these real big adults come and they want to do things, you must say no, run away, go tell. But it seems that there's something happening where there's the idea that you don't quite believe the internet is real. It's like you still have the sense that you're in a movie. Because when I said to her, but then why did you go? Oh, well, because he was there and I'm here and whatever. But you must remember, he wanted to come and find her. Her location is on, the GPS is on her phone. He knows where she is. Okay. So I'm not here to scare you because I really don't want to do that, but I want you to really think about it. So anybody, what is catfishing and what is a soft puppet?
Catfishing is like, so you create a profile, but you're not actually that person, and you're hiding behind the profile because I don't know.
Okay, so the catfishing is going out and wanting to befriend a particular type of person, so you pretend to be that kind of person, and then the soft puppet is the identity you create. So what we are finding a lot of is that particularly adult men, and I'm talking about old fat adult men in particular, old adult men are pretending to be teenage girls and then teenage boys. And they're creating profiles, they're in America, they live in the States and whatever, and please befriend me, and this is all American. And then what happens is it gradually escalates, and that's what we call grooming. So what grooming is what they will do is they will introduce more and more explicit stuff as they go along. So first it's, hi, this is my name, I'm at school, I'll write Captain America, etc., etc. And then what will happen is then they'll start asking about, what do you like to wear? Where do you go? What kind of oil are you interested in, etc. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to lure you into some kind of either online sexual thing or real world sexual thing where they stalk you and etc. Okay, but they pretend that they're a 12-year-old boy. Okay, and the problem is if you haven't met that person in the real world, you have no idea who they are. How easy is it to construct an identity with Photoshop and a couple of downloads? It's really easy. You can even make all sorts of photos with yourself and steal a person's identity. And that's the other thing that happens, is we see these men actually hacking young boys' accounts that have got girls as friends and then saying sexual things. When that happens, you need to switch your phone off immediately and hand it to your parent. Because those people are pedophiles who are trying to get access to you via the internet. They are dangerous, scary, bad people. Okay. Right, so the last thing I really want to mention is about addiction. What do people get addicted to? Drugs. What kind of drugs? Marijuana, heroin, cocaine. How big a problem is drugs in your community? So, hello, I'm going to phrase the question the way you can actually answer it. How many of you believe that drugs in your community, which is your broader community, how many of you believe it is a significant problem? Okay. How many of you believe it's a bit of a problem? A medium problem? How many of you believe it's no problem at all? Okay, so that leaves half of you that didn't have any opinion whatsoever. So it must be a hell of a problem. Okay. Now, you've got different kinds of drugs that people get addicted to. You've got, first of all the ones you're talking about, heroin, marijuana, etc., but you've also got prescription drugs. And they're also sold on the internet. Okay. And what they also wanted to do is push addiction, because obviously that then pushes their sales. And it was a very interesting thing. You know, you've all heard about the Vietnam War. I'm sure you've all watched some kind of American movie where Vietnam has been mentioned. What happened was those soldiers were so badly traumatized, in fact it was the beginning of the diagnosis of post-traumatic stress disorder. They took a lot of heroin when they were in Vietnam, a lot of it. Okay? But when they came, we believe that your body gets addicted to it, but when they came back from Vietnam, they just stopped taking it altogether. And they wondered, why was it that these young people who were completely off their head on heroin while they were in the war zone, how come when they came back, were they actually okay? And this is what we believe to be the answer. So, adolescents with high degrees of social interaction and how they feel about themselves. And those who interact in the real world, not in the cyber world, and feel good about themselves, that they've done good things, etc., and are bonded. In other words, they have a good relationship with their primary caregiver, parent, etc., are far less likely to get involved in anything problematic on the internet, even if they're exposed to it. They're less likely to go back to it. And they're less likely to become addicted to things because they are connected. And they're less likely to be violent and ugly and bullying and mean and nasty because they have learned to empathize. They recognize that to be in the world is about us in relation to others. And the reason in my moral development, okay, let me finish with this. Why do you do the right thing? Why do you do what's right? Because it's right. Based on the value system. So initially we do what's right because we will get a hiding otherwise. Or we get something taken away from us. Yes? Okay. So the first level of moral development is based on punishment. Okay? You messed around with your phone, do it to me. Okay? The next is based on reward, and they say you get out of the reward-based stage of moral development in about 10. I sincerely doubt that, because every time I ever asked any of my teenage girls to do anything, the first thing they would say is, so what are you going to give me? Okay. Yes? Thank you. Okay, so that's the reward. But then the third and most important level of moral development is the recognition that, I mean, we could use Ubuntu as a word in South Africa or whatever, but it's the recognition that I am who I am because of you. And you are a community. Let me take an example, bless you. Let me take an example of something that is in your school. So you say bullying, cyberbullying is a problem, yes? You are, except for the matrics, you are the majority of the senior players. Yes? What would you have to do to stop bullying today? Huh? Take away our phones. I would hope that, remember, that's punishment. That's the lowest form of moral development, reserved for 5-year-olds. What would you have to do? It's very simple, actually. Each of you would have to decide. Huh? Very good. So that's empathy. It's the ability to understand how someone else would feel if you did it to them. And when I've asked who believes they are bullied and a bully as well, a couple of people put their hands up. Because often it's a retaliation, isn't it? You said something terrible to me, and therefore I'm saying it back. But the reality is, if you wanted to stop cyberbullying only in your school, obviously, because you don't have a sphere of influence outside of it, you would have to just, all of you, just make one simple decision today, and that decision would be, I will not do it. And if I chose not to do it, and everyone that chose not to do it, it would not be accepted. But each of you just have to make a decision to not cause somebody else harm. That's the only thing you have to do. It's actually even a negative action. It's something you don't do rather than something you actually have to do. Okay, and it would end in the school overnight because all of you decided I'm not doing it. Okay, not as easy as that, but anyway, that's the point. But what she says is really where I want to end. The ability to understand the impact your behavior has on somebody else, and as a result on you, is what makes us human. It's the relational world that is based on us in connection, in communication with one another. And I believe that overuse of machines is ruining that. And as we ruin that, we are ruining beautiful potential relationships, we're ruining potential learning, we're ruining potential ways of being together that are far more fulfilling than the red tapping the screen as fast as they can to see how many people like their messages, with all the FOMO that goes with it. Okay? And there is an addiction to those machines as well. The chemicals that are released with drugs are similar chemicals that are released when you hear that ping, ping, ping. You know? It is. They feel good things. Okay. So my message to you, please try to have a conversation with your parents about it. I have spoken to some of your parents. I did talk to them previously. Discuss it, do something about it. But the most important thing is stop, think, then do. Don't be going and just splurging things out all over the internet and accepting everybody as your friend and make sure you're popular, etc. Okay? And think carefully about who it is that you idolize and why you idolize them.